Fabulous. So, hello and welcome to More Than Just Mum, the podcast. I am very, very excited to be getting this show on the road. And our first ever speaker,
Hmm.
our first ever guest is the lovely Jo Sayers. And we have known each other now quite a few years, haven't we? Like in the
Yeah,
online
yeah,
space. We've never actually met in person.
yeah.
And this is one of the things that I absolutely love about the online world is you meet some absolutely incredible, inspirational women who have all got a story to share and all got a story to tell that's going to help other people. I'm getting goosebumps just even like speaking about this now because we need to get our stories out there and we need to share them with more people because there are lots of people who are where we were and who may even be where we may even go where we were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And we can, help them to overcome that or to stop them getting to that place by sharing our stories. So, Jo, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Heather. And firstly, congratulations on your first podcast because I would imagine that's a journey to get there. So well done to you. And thanks for having me on.
No, you're absolutely welcome. So, it's an absolute honor to have you. So, do you want to just share with the listeners who you are and what you do briefly, and then we'll go into
Yeah,
your
yeah.
story?
I like the briefly. Yeah, so I'm Jo Sayers. Oh, I'm going to cough. And I'm a capacity and confidence coach. And I basically work with mums who are trying to find that work-life balance, whether that's in their day job, their business, whatever that is. They want to work. They've always loved their job, or they see that in themselves, and they want to be around for their kids as well. So I basically work with those mums to teach them how to build their capacity, because these mums aren't they've tried to change before. Like they have a list of things that they've tried to done, they've put in the routines, they've tried to get fit, they've done it all, but they keep finding themselves going back to burnout and back in that cycle, and it's that repetition of that cycle where then they keep telling themselves, it must be me, I'm broken. And it's actually teaching them that, which is what I had to learn myself, that it's building their capacity so that they can then implement those changes. And it's not about blaming ourselves or the fact that we're broken. We've just never been taught. We've never been taught these things.
Mm.
And we're just, oh, it's giving me goosebumps because we're so good at cracking on and just getting on with it. And there's so many things that I didn't know that we don't know that can help us to create the life that we really want to live. And we don't have to struggle, and we don't have to feel that way. So yeah, that was my
Yeah.
brief answer.
No, that's amazing. And I think, so many women, not even mums. I know obviously we specialize in working with mums, but we help women as, across the board. But even before I had kids, I think I was very, very lost and I was just trying to keep on going, and there was one point where I don't know if I've shared this publicly, but I was considering getting pregnant with my ex-boyfriend so I could have some time off work and just have a bloody break because
Yeah,
I was 20, 23, 24, and I was just knackered.
yeah,
I was, I look back now and I was like a little baby. And
yeah,
and we just think that actually this is the norm. This is how society should be. And actually it isn't. There is
yeah.
a different way. Um, and so you were very much in that society, weren't you?
Mm.
In your role, in your career. Do you want to just expand on, and I'm going to give you free rein now. We've got 20 minutes. I'll go 15 and then we've got 5 minutes to wrap up. But like share where you were at, how you were, and what you were doing, and then sort of your journey, if that's okay, because that would be really powerful.
Yeah, I think actually something you just said, that we would consider to have a baby, to have a break. Like how
I
that
know.
how that expectation in itself would be like, oh, we'll have a baby and that will give us a break from work. Um, but yeah, I found that funny because I probably felt the
Yeah.
same thing as well. Um, yeah, so well, it was 5 years ago now, and I'd had two very difficult pregnancies. I'd had hyperemesis with both of them. That's the thing where you throw up all the time.
Mm.
And especially with my first, I had a very difficult birth. And I didn't give myself any time to recover. Like it was just like, oh yeah, you've done that now, like crack on and you know, have your maternity leave and learn all this stuff about motherhood and like, you know, because you're just going to get it. And then kind of both, well, the first time went back to the police. And do you know what? Like I was writing some content yesterday, and I think that before, like you said, it was before having children that I'd always kind of struggled probably with my confidence, but I had the time, I had the energy. This is how I saw it. I had the time, I had the energy to kind of compensate for that. And then as soon as the
Mm,
kids came along, I couldn't keep up. And so the story I told myself was that I couldn't give my all at work and I couldn't give my all as a mum. And that was basically the story I told myself until 5 years ago. And then, you know, what I know now is I would see everything where I was failing and I made it about me and no judgment to myself. That's what we do. And yeah, I was failing at work, I was failing at motherhood, I was failing in my marriage, as a daughter, as a friend. Like I then just couldn't do anything right. And I tried like to, you know,
mm.
right, we just need to put in this parenting routine and that will be the answer, or let's get fit, or let's see more friends, or, you know, let's move. That was another thing. Let's move. That'll fix it.
Yeah.
And it was all this like fix it mentality that I had, because it would be that thing that would
Mm.
then, and I'd always been the person that I'll be happy when. That was always in my my subconscious,
Yeah.
not even my subconscious, very conscious. I'll be happy when we do this. Um, and to be honest, Heather, I just literally burnt out. Like you know, I left the police once and tried a business, and that was going to be the thing. And then my identity was so tied up. I was a police officer, as you know. My identity was so tied up in being a police officer, because
Hmm.
you don't leave the police service. Like, well, when I joined, you didn't. You joined for
Yeah.
35 years and you counted down to your pension. So to leave was a real, in my eyes, a failure. I'd done something wrong. So
Yeah.
I'd gone back, and then
And as a police officer as well, you get that you get this respect, don't you? This sort of like
mm,
authority and this respect and this
mm,
identity. And
mm,
it's almost I have to relate it. It sounds a little bit completely different, but like to dressing up. You know, when you went like you went out as a kid or and you
yeah,
dressed up and you dressed
yeah,
up as a police officer or a nurse or whatever you did when you were at uni, stays at
yeah,
uni. Like you felt different when you dressed up.
yeah,
And it's that this is probably a really bad a really really bad comparison, but you have that identity and
yeah,
people respect you and you have yeah. So it's to then take that away.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
massively, massively.
yeah.
And I think that, you know, I was very able to put on a persona, I suppose. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I was still me, but I was able to put on a persona that I could then recover from before I had children. And as soon as I then had children, you don't get that same, not even time, like space. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't get
Yeah.
that time to regulate. I didn't get that time to just sit in a room and not talk to anyone because
Mm.
then you're mum. Um, so yeah, massively resonate with that. And also, everyone knew what a police officer did. So if I said I was a police officer, oh right, okay, you know, some people wouldn't want to talk to you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You kind of picked who you told. But do you know what I mean? Like everyone knew what it was. Like you said, it was a respected job, so I was
Mm.
doing okay. But yeah, and then I happened to be sat next to someone who I was always supposed to work with, but we never ran into each other. Um, and his wife was training to be a life coach, and we basically probably sat there for 6 months and judged what she was doing. And basically, he'd come in and he'd be like, "Oh, apparently she's talking about if you change your thoughts, you can change your life." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like what a load of rubbish that is. Like, and we basically just mocked it. I mean, very cynical police officers right there.
Yeah.
But and then, you know, over time we laugh about it now, but over time I just got to the point where I was like, do you know what, like I need to do something. And I
Mm.
tried everything else, and you know, it got to quite a low point. um and then I went for my first coaching session, and it was just that glimmer, do you know, and I think it was probably the first
That
time,
hope.
yeah, I think it was probably that first time I'd ever told anyone other than Andy, like, you know, the real, like, because you talk to your friends and you say like it's hard and stuff, but I think it was the first time where I ever told someone the judgment that I gave myself, and
Mm.
and dropped that level of shame in order to share it. And yeah, like, and then it kind of went from there really. But becoming a life coach was never in my plan. Like, I was done with being self-employed. I was just going to suck it up and work in the police until I retired. And from seeing the dramatic change even then in just my life, and how
Mm.
then that rippled effect to my family, I was like, people don't know about this. Like, I'd had
No.
counselling and work, and to me that was the only avenue, and this was so different.
Mm.
But yeah, it's kind of, so much has happened since, but it changed so much, which I know is
Yeah.
a very broad statement, but it has.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely the start of it.
Mm.
And you know what, I look back now and I just think, thank God I was sat by John that day. Like, do you know what I mean? Because, you know, I it makes me like recoil to think where I'd be now. It genuinely, seriously, because I couldn't have carried on in the way I
Yeah.
was going, and whether that would have affected, well, it was affecting my marriage, but how that would have looked if I'd have carried on that path.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
And and that is so, so important because there are so many people. I mean, you look even at the most successful people in the
Mm,
world, right? The most successful female entrepreneurs and mums in business. We will all have like a level of self-sabotage, a level of doubt, a level of this and that and the other. But it's when it gets to that next level and it's like, do you know what? I literally just can't keep doing this. Like, and I see Facebook posts quite a few times on my personal profile, I just can't do this anymore. Like, someone help
mm,
me. And people are desperate, but people
mm,
don't know where to reach out to. And I've been in that place where, I've just gone, oh my God, like I'm back here again. Like I
mm,
can't tell my husband because he's just going to roll his eyes at me because I'm
mm,
here again. And
mm,
it's like, but where the hell do you go?
mm,
And it's
mm,
about finding that person and I've had counselling, wasn't my cup of tea, because they open a can of worms and then leave you to fester.
mm,
That was my experience. That's not everybody's
mm,
experience. Whereas with coaching, it looks at, right, okay, this is where you are, this is what's
mm,
happened, but how can we move forwards from that?
mm, mm.
How can we
Yeah.
move forwards? So I can't believe this. The doorbell's just gone. Right, bear with me.
And the experience of life, isn't that just
Oh, honestly, like I said to my husband this morning, no parcels today because I'm recording podcasts all day. So please, no parcels. But it's fine. It's
but
fine.
but do you know what, Heather?
Um,
I think that like life happens, doesn't it? And I think that when we can drop that, like, I don't know that I ever considered myself a perfectionist. I would consider myself an all or nothing person, and I suppose that is a perfectionist in a different way. But actually, like, when we can drop that and just be like, the doorbell rang, like, that is life, and then just crack
yeah.
on.
And I think resilience actually
Yeah,
leads
yeah,
seamlessly into that, doesn't it?
yeah,
Because regardless of life, business, parenting, whatever, you have to have resilience. You have to build a certain level of resilience. But I also believe that it isn't just about showing up as being brave and strong and resilient, but also being vulnerable. And when you need that help, is reaching out for that help, but not using
yeah,
it as an excuse. But it's very, very hard, and people will be at lots and lots of different levels, and it depends on where you're at.
yeah,
But you have already, no matter how old you are, okay, whoever's listening to this, you have already gone through so much, or you are already very, very resilient.
yeah.
But it is about getting that extra support as well.
And I think it's that relationship with the word resilient, because to me, like, I have a very I suppose we're taught resilience in the police. So that is a
Mm.
very, and to me, that is then you push through, you work harder, do you know what I mean? And I think that's where my
Go
coaching
to
comes.
work if you're sick.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You
Yes.
can't have a day off and do that 16-hour shift and be okay the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think so. So when you say resilient, I can actually feel it in my body. Like that feels really like, because that's what we were
Mm.
taught. And that's where for me the capacity comes in, because even to have even for me to go to that first coaching session, I
Mm.
had to have some level of capacity to drop that shame that I felt on myself. Like I knew that I needed to change. I knew that I'd been told that it was perhaps me that needed to change, which now I see as very empowering, but did not get received very well at the time.
No.
But you know, it is my responsibility. However, I didn't have the capacity to receive it in the way that it was maybe meant. But I had to, and it was from having those conversations for months about coaching and that curiosity, um, that I then had the capacity to be like, okay, I'm going to go and talk to someone. And I never ever, like, whenever someone DMs me or comments on my post or inquires about coaching, like, to me that is such a massive win, because I know how hard it was for me to make that drive to that coach that day,
Yeah.
who's now a friend. But do you know what I mean? Like, I went there in tears thinking I'm going to be judged. Like, I can't be saying this. I've got everything I want in life on paper and I'm going to moan about it. Like, my husband's amazing and I'm going to moan about him. He did get an ear
Mm.
bashing in that session, bless him. But do you know what I mean? I had to have, so I have a really weird relationship with resilience, and it is that building that capacity to even drop that level of shame so I can even talk about it, because we're very good at venting and being like, this is hard, and that's good, like, as in, there was a time
Mhm.
when I wouldn't have even done that, um but then really saying what's underneath that takes a lot, like, that's a lot. And just to recognize for yourself, actually,
Mm.
I want to do something about this because I don't want to feel this way all the time, is huge. And also, you were saying about counseling earlier, Heather. I think coaching for me, it doesn't mean you'd never have counseling. Do you know what I mean? Or it doesn't mean
Mhm.
you'd never take up yoga, or it doesn't mean you'd never do breath work sessions. But for me,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
coaching is like, again, giving yourself that capacity to be like, oh, actually, I can try this or I can try that. Do you know what I mean? And you're right, counseling, I found counseling very, very hard. Um,
Mm.
the type of counseling I had worked for what I needed it for at the time. But yeah, it's not a one-stop shop. Like, it opens so many different avenues because of the way you then look at yourself. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about it.
Yeah.
I've done loads of
And
stuff now.
yeah, and it is amazing. And I'm studying EFT at the moment,
Mm, mm,
and they've described it as like you're seeing all these trees, this massive
mm,
wood full of all these trees, and then you go on this, maybe this healing journey or this self-development journey, or whatever, this self-discovery, or you go, do you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, like what, like this is a first step. And it's like an onion, isn't it? Like you can
mm,
either describe it as the forest and the trees, or the onion, and
mm,
literally you are peeling back the
mm,
layers. And I think, in everyday life, like I don't particularly like the school playground. I find it quite
mm,
scary and I'm
mm,
a bit shy. But if someone asks you how you are, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, how are you?
mm,
And like
mm,
that is it. That is the most interaction that most people get on a
mm.
daily basis, if they even go to the school playground.
Yeah.
In work, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Yeah, that's like, well, actually, I'm not. I'm fucking dying inside. Like, I
Yeah.
am literally like, and we are becoming more open to mental health and
Mm,
and all of that sort of stuff. But it's, sometimes it is taking that first step, like you said, that it is so hard to go,
mm,
right, do you know what, I need some help, but
mm,
where do I even go?
mm.
Well, coaches are a great place, because
Yeah.
most of the time the coaches that, especially, we both have been where
Mm,
people are right now, and
mm,
it's guiding them through that and mentoring them through and helping them through to see things from maybe another perspective, or to see how they can do things a bit differently,
mm.
that's going to be a habit that's maintained.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I remember when I first, because life coach I'd never heard of before, and when I
Mm.
first heard John say that his wife Nikki was a life coach, I went, "She can tell people how to live." Like, I was so
Yes.
judgmental. And
Yeah.
the thing is coaching's not about that. Like, as in,
No.
I don't give any advice about how someone, because all of the answers we've got. Do you know what I mean? We know, like, what we want to do the most. We know our children better than anyone. We know
Yeah.
how to work with our husband or partner or whoever we live with, like we know the answers, no one else can tell us. And
Mm.
actually through coaching, it's about giving that person the space so that they make that decision. I was coaching someone yesterday and we were talking about like that decision fatigue, as in like, you suddenly can't make a decision about what sandwich you want because you've had so many decisions to make. And actually just pointing out to them, you've made a decision there, you've made a decision there, and they might be the smaller ones, but that's what builds us to then the bigger ones because we've got all the
Mm.
answers. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because I always said I was really skeptical about coaching, and oh, will it work, won't it work? And actually I wasn't skeptical, I was terrified. Like
Mm.
that was what was underneath. I was terrified because, and I always say now, if my brain and nervous system knew exactly what I would be doing today, the Joe 5 years ago would have never done this because I've changed my job. I've like we've moved to a slightly different area where we would have lived before. We homeschool one of my children. Like there are I show up on social media. Like there are so many things that Joe 5 years
Mm.
ago would have been like, what are you even doing?
Yeah.
So our brain and nervous system wants us to stay there, and I was terrified. And
Mm.
actually, I've just signed up for some more coaching in like a different, maybe something that well, it's different. And before I was signing up, I was like, oh, is it gonna work? Is it gonna? And I was like, you're actually scared. Like, and as soon as I gave that to myself, like, you're actually scared. You're not skeptical. You know it's gonna help you. You know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. You're actually scared. It was like, oh yeah, of course you are. Like, it's
I
just
love
learning what's
that.
underneath. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've
I
just
did it.
I've
I
just
was like, yeah.
invested literally yesterday in a 3-month program,
Mm,
and it's the healing, it's the deeper work. And I was
mm,
like, we had a chat, and I was like, yeah, this feels really, really good. I'm excited. And I was like,
yeah,
what if? But literally, as soon as I then made that investment, like my energy changed and like
yeah,
everything, because and it does. And you hear this, like, other coaches that I've worked with, when you invest, your energy changes, and I'm like, oh bollocks, whatever. And I know it works, like, 'cause,
mm,
and
yeah,
because everything changes because it is scary.
yeah,
Because what if? Well, what if you are this you are like this person that you've dreamed about? What if it does like be a bit scary and you do get upset, and well, good, because you need to release
yeah,
like whatever and whatever's meant to be will be.
yeah, yeah. And it's the other
And
way around, isn't it, as well? Like,
yeah,
what if it doesn't work? Like, as in
yeah.
whatever we make that mean, or what if I waste my money, or what if and I've done loads of different coaching throughout
Mm,
the last 5 years. And sometimes I haven't got what I thought I was going to get, but I've always taken away what I needed. Like, and
yes.
that, like, 100%, like I
Yeah.
would always say that. And yeah, it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you just, it's like you're almost opening a door to a whole new world that you never knew
A
existed.
whole new world. I had to get a singing on my first one. And Siri's just asked, am I playing music? Thank you, Siri. I love it. This is the thing though, and I've worked with clients before. They've come to me for business coaching, right? One to one, and we haven't spoken about business pretty much the whole 12 weeks
Yeah, yeah,
because it's not about the business, it's
yeah,
about the person.
yeah,
And I've still got some of these people that have been in my world over like the last 4.5 years, and they're like, oh, but I've not done this yet, I've not done that. But you just look back at how far you've bloody come.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I started this business, I was 34, little 34-year-old, 39 now, I feel really old. I know I'm
Oh,
not, I
you're
know I'm
older.
not.
You're not. You're
I
not. 40's
know.
fine. 40's fine.
And I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so proud of her. Like, and I think that's a really powerful thing to do sometimes is to look back just a few years ago as to where you were at.
Yeah,
And yes, you might not be where you want to be right now. I'm not. This should be
yeah,
global business right now.
yeah, yeah,
But life's happened,
yeah, yeah,
shit's
massive.
happened.
Yeah,
All of this stuff that you don't plan in,
no,
you set those goals, and we'll talk about goals another time. But look back at how far you've come, because personal growth isn't easy to always measure.
No, no.
But when you respond, and I don't know if it was a post that you put out or I'd seen it somewhere else the other day, when you respond differently to something that you would have reacted to a
Yeah,
few months ago or a few years ago, and you go, do you know what? I didn't just shout at my kids.
yeah,
Instead, I took a deep breath, or I saw someone put chewing gum in the other day to regulate their system, and I just spoke to them. And
yeah,
I'm so fucking proud of myself. And it's those moments,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
They're
know,
massive. They're massive.
they are
And
huge.
and also I think we think it's uh, I'll speak for myself. I always thought it was the huge changes, like the change the job,
Mm,
the have the have the child, the get married, the move house. Like I always thought it was the massive things. And in the last 5 years,
mm,
massive things have happened because of the small steps I've made. And honestly, Heather, I cannot tell you how much I have had to like rewire. And like even Jo 5 years ago is judging me right now because she's like whatever, because I just don't know 5 years ago what I know
mm,
now. And yeah, it I think if I could give everyone the gift of curiosity, like as in the gift of, like where I was that morning where I was like, I'm just gonna try it. Like because and also I always think it's so sad that I had to get to that point before I then did something.
mm.
But I'm so glad I did. Like I am, and I know, and I'm not about sticking a positive spin on a rubbish situation. Like
No, no,
if it's
no.
rubbish, it's rubbish. But now after 5 years, I can look back and think, thank God I got to that point.
Yeah.
And I can feel like it makes me emotional thinking about it because I just my life is so different, but I'm still the same. And I think that's another thing that scares people, as if you're going to suddenly become a completely different person.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm very different, but I've still got the same friends. I've still, my family still speak to me. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still married. There's so many things that my kids probably like me more sometimes. But yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, huge changes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure that we could sit here all day and talk.
We've done very
But
good. We've done very well.
we are, yeah, because I had to go to the
Yeah,
postman.
sure.
Um, so just to finish off then, could you give one tip or one quote for people to have as food for thought or to go away with today? Um, and then if you can just let people know where they can find you, and what I will do is also get your links as well and pop those
Yeah.
onto the whatever it's called underneath the podcast.
Show notes? Is it show notes?
The show notes, that's the one. Check you out.
Well, I was too busy thinking about what am I going to tell people. You could have given me some time to plan that. No, it's fine. I know. It's like, you know what? I think the biggest thing I felt I needed to change was more time. And I was never going to get more time because I was working a 35-hour shift pattern in the police and a mum of two, and we were building a house at the time. Like it was never going to get more time. And I
Mm,
think just to consider that, what if it isn't more time you need, but if it was more capacity to manage what you're managing. And also, I don't think we need to lower our expectations, because I think that telling the mum where they are right now that you need to lower your expectations is going to blow their brain, because I already thought I
mm.
was failing. So to then say we'll just do less, I was like, I can't do less. I'm already failing. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just be curious as to what if it is about building your capacity where you are right now. So it's not about making massive changes, but
Mm.
actually managing what you're managing where you are, and then you can make those changes in sustainable and manageable steps. That was pretty good
Amazing.
off the cuff, to be
Love
fair.
it. There you go. You see, this is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
We sometimes doubt ourselves, and
I know.
actually, we already know. We just
Yeah,
speak from the heart. There you go.
exactly. Didn't
There you
need to plan
go.
it, did I? And where can people find me? I'm on Facebook in Mum's Mind, and I'm on Instagram at I am Jo Sayers, and I'm even on TikTok.
Check you out
I know, check me out. I'm
with the cool kids.
learning it from my son. He's like, "Oh, you got to do this." I'm like, "Oh." But even on TikTok, I am Jo Sayers as well. But yeah, That's where I am.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so, so much for joining us
All right,
today
thanks for having
and for
me.
sharing your insights and your story. It has been absolutely amazing.
Well
Thank
done
you
to
so
you.
much. Thank you
See
very
you
much.
later.
I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.